choose to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
This is Conor Benn for IFL TV. Edward, it's been a while. How have you been?
I've been unbelievable, as you can see. You're the last one.
Can't believe it. I was meant to be first when we walked through the door.
You won't be happy.
No,
I'll have to summon up some energy after doing 2 hours of media.
Yeah. The last one, because you done me in. When we walked through those front doors, you said, yeah, I'm going for a meeting here. You just sit around and then you done 1, 2, 3, like about 5 in front of me. Even TalkSport got in front of me. And they batter you daily.
IFL, we're ready.
Edward, I want to start on a bit of a solemn note. Last week was a bit of a weird one because of the whole situation that happened in Tijuana. Can you talk me through that situation? And obviously it's something that you actually said this to me before, how like in boxing you never know what's going to happen next, and something as crazy as that, it's so much bigger than boxing. When that happens before your eyes to someone that you've been with during the fight week, how hard is that to take in at that time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're talking about the passing of Diego Arua, Sabrina Perez, trainer, manager, husband as well. Yeah, it was, I think, 20 seconds of the fight to go, and you know, it was there, 8 feet, 10 feet away from me. He collapsed, and it was very hot in the arena. I think people just felt that he fainted or whatever, and we all got up, and the medical team was straight onto him, and then the bell went for the fight, and then quite quickly you saw that it was a lot more serious than that, and they opened his shirt and they started to use a defibrillator on him. And you know, at that point, to look up and see Sabrina Perez on a ring apron watching her trainer and husband fight for his life was one of the most difficult things probably I've ever seen. And from there, they put him on a stretcher, they wheeled him out, and she followed him with her boxing gloves on, with her fight kit, and unfortunately lost his life. So, you know, I say it wasn't boxing related. It was part of life that, you know, I've never seen anything like that, and you can't really imagine the grief that she's feeling right now. And I think in boxing, one thing I'll always say about the sport is, despite the politics, despite, you know, the clickbait and the rows and stuff like that, everybody is as one in grief. You know, and this is something that, you know, touched a lot of people at the show on Friday, but also people would have seen or would have heard or would have read the story. And, you know, you can't imagine, as I said, the grief that Sabrina Perez is in now. And I think no words of condolences can ever help. You just hope that God can give her the strength at this time to come through. And when I watched the broadcast back, you know, I only met Diego Arua on Thursday at the press conference just for a photo, and seemed like a lovely chap, you know. And it just shows you in life that you just never know. You know, 1 minute you're in the moment, and the next everything's over. And
you said something though, I think it was in your Instagram post maybe, about the gym that they opened in Argentina, and how that you wanted to do something. Do you think that Matchroom maybe, I don't know, name it after him and help with the funding of that gym? Is there going to be something beyond this? Like,
I think in this situation, you've always got to do what you can to help people. And in this instance, it's to help people on the ground straight after the event, and that's what our team have been doing. And also, unfortunately, with, you know, the paperwork and getting Diego's body back to Argentina and that kind of process. And, you know, someone said to me, like, you know, when you talk about how life unfolds, imagine being Sabrina Perez and having to go back to the hotel room and pack away stuff. You know, like, that's brutal, and all you can ever do is try and help people, and when you can. So yes, all that stuff on the ground is important, but also legacy. You know, when I saw on the broadcast that Diego and Sabrina had opened their own gym in Buenos Aires for kids in the area, and then I went onto their Instagram and I saw about how much passion and the sense of achievement of opening that gym. We have a responsibility, I feel, anyway, and I spoke to Maurizio Sullivan about this, to carry that legacy on, because that legacy should live on. You know, I never knew Diego Arua, but reading about him and his love for boxing and his love for, you know, obviously the journey that he was on with Sabrina and kids in Buenos Aires, like, if that don't touch you, you don't have an ounce of you know, emotion in your body. So one thing, trying to help people be as comfortable as possible right now, but beyond that, not forgetting his name and not forgetting his legacy. And although I didn't really know him, anyone that does that in a community, I feel like, you know, that we should try and carry that on. You don't want that gym to just, unfortunately, fade away. You want his picture up there. You want his name up there. You want his legacy. You want young kids to know that this was a guy who wanted to help them. So that's what we'll be doing, you know, over the next couple of months.
I can see how emotional you are even talking about that, and you're someone that you're great at showing the best of emotions in interviews, and everyone sees that side there, and you take a lot of abuse at times, but this is something that's touched you like deeply at the time.
I mean, you know, to see someone, you know, I'm not sure that I've seen someone lose their life in front of me before, even a family member, you know, and it's like, but the images of him trying to be revived and her standing yards away after her fight, you know, you never forget that. So yeah, it was you know, more emotional probably talking about it now, because I'm kind of like, I'm quite good at, like, you know, you try and like boxing, the business can sometimes take the emotion out of you, you know, but again, that wasn't just boxing, that was like life, you know, that was like someone witnessing their life fall apart in front of them, you know, and it was horrible to see. And I didn't even know Diego, but you know, to see Sabrina go through that after the fight, you know, it was horrible to see. But like I said, we got to, you know, words are always nice, and you know, I think action is better to try and help that legacy live on, what they created together.
I think it's important as well that last on this, just that Sky's commended for how she reacted, because that's such an unusual situation to be faced with, because you're jubilant in the win, but you also have to be realistic of the sympathy you need to show towards the opponent.
Yeah, difficult for her. I don't think, you know, I think she's probably feeling it as well, because she was the one who had, you know, just fought Sabrina. I think any fighter will tell you, when you share that battle and you share that round, you share that respect, you have that connection with someone. And yeah, you know, I saw her social media post where clearly she doesn't feel like she should celebrate, really. It was the biggest moment of her career. She's, you know, probably going to be mandatory for Amanda Serrano, but probably feels, I wish I'd give it all up for Sabrina Perez. So, you know, difficult times for everybody, but you know, it's difficult to not think about Sabrina Perez at this time, especially after that show, because the whole team felt it, you know, and not just Matchroom's team who saw it unfold, everybody that was in the arena, you know, and everybody that watched on TV. Unfortunately, you know, you saw it on the broadcast, you know, and I think that those clips and stuff have been removed from us and DAZN out of respect. But, you know, like I said, we have to now make sure that we can comfort Sabrina, but also allow that legacy and that name to live on.
We'll move on from that, Eddie, but I think it is good that Matchroom are showing that empathy towards Sabrina and renaming that gym after him and doing whatever you're going to do. It would be good. But we'll move on to Orlando. Obviously, the breaking news was that Conor Benn was announced on the show this morning. First question is, how long ago was this decided? Because it's been rumoured for maybe like 2 weeks or so.
I would say about 10 days ago, we made the decision to put Conor Benn on this card. And it was a long process. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter where people think we just sort of slipped him on under the nose of the British Boxing Board of Control and the ABC. I'll tell you the process that unfolded. About a week ago, maybe a little bit more, 8 days, we spoke to the Texas Athletic State Commission, who licensed Conor Benn. Okay, we said we would like Conor Benn to fight on the 23rd of September in Orlando. They said, is he suspended? And we said, no, he's not. That suspension has been lifted and he's clear to fight. He said, if that is confirmed to us, we will allow him and give him permission to box. We then spoke to the Florida State Athletic Commission, who obviously this is the jurisdiction that we're in at the moment. And they said, is he suspended? Does he have approval from the Texas Athletic Commission? And essentially the ABC, which is the governing bodies of commissions in America. And also, we understood, as we'd provided him information with, that he's been tested multiple times over the last 12 weeks. We would like him to take a further test now as part of this procedure. So we said, okay. We then spoke to the ABC, who said, I believe, last we heard, Conor Benn was suspended. And we said, no, he's not. Here's a copy of the UCAD press release. Here's a copy of the British Boxing Board of Control letter. And they said, we're going to have to speak to the British Boxing Board of Control. So we said, okay, no problem. The ABC spoke to the British Boxing Board of Control. They confirmed he is not suspended, and ultimately he is clear to fight in other territories. The ABC lifted any suspension that they had on Conor Benn in relation to the ruling from UCAD and the board. Texas were then happy with that. We expedited the VADA test, the additional VADA test that he took last week. We got the results back, I believe, on Monday. And once we did that, the ABC were happy, the Texas Commission were happy, the Florida Commission were happy. We're up. And that was the process that unfolded. So, you know, I still really struggle with the whole he's not been cleared argument. If he hadn't been cleared, he could not fight. Because if he was suspended, the ABC would have not allowed him to fight in this situation. So he returns on Saturday, and we can't wait.
I sometimes take a bit of abuse for not asking you hard questions, and I think at times I feel like I do, but maybe I don't. So one of the questions I want to ask is, do you believe that it's ethical for Conor Benn to fight whenever the appeal process is still ongoing? Because necessarily, maybe this is the confusion, other sports, if an appeal process is going on, the athlete won't really be involved until that has concluded. And I feel, is that maybe what
not
the confusion?
Not necessarily that's the case at all. But the situation is, we have been told that the board are going to appeal the decision. We've seen no correspondence as to when that appeal will take place. It could be in November, it could be in February of next year, or it might not even happen at all. Conor Benn hasn't boxed for 18 months. Okay? He's been through these processes with the WBC, with UCAD, and he won the case with UCAD. His suspension was lifted. He was cleared to box. Now, when we heard about the appeal, we actually spoke to people to try and fast-track that appeal, but we haven't heard anything on that appeal. So, your options after being cleared, if you're Conor Benn, are resume your career or wait for an appeal that may or may not happen at some time in the future, I don't know when. And we took the decision to get back to work. Okay, he's had 18 months out of the ring. Financially, he's in a position where he has to work. People have to work. You know, he's spent a lot of money on this situation through appeals and legal processes and scientific information. There is no reason for him not to fight. You know, if there was an appeal that was confirmed and it was in October, November, I think your point might be valid. Wait for that appeal. And I think we may have said to him, let's get that appeal done. But we don't even know if there's going to be an appeal. And we don't even know when that's going to be. So I know people will never be happy, but I see some people just at times just think about the situation. Like, you know, do you honestly think that?
Have the board liaised with the ABC
Yes,
here, and
absolutely.
then so they've given the clearance that he can fight?
The ABC said to us, we need to speak to the British Boxing Board of Control to confirm this.
So therefore, the body who are taking that appeal have said that Conor Benn can fight, so he is cleared.
Yeah, but I don't like when you have your suspension lifted, you're cleared to fight. The whole, like, people still really struggle because it hurts them so much to say he's cleared to fight. So if he wasn't cleared, if he wasn't cleared to fight, he would not be allowed to fight this Saturday. This isn't Florida making their own decision. This is Florida, Texas Athletic State Commission, and more importantly, the ABC speaking to the British Boxing Board of Control to confirm he is not suspended and that he can fight. If he was suspended, the ABC would have not let him fight, nor would Texas, nor would Florida. So that's really important when people, like Dan Raphael and people like that, say, oh, he's commission hopping. No. They're the same, the conversation is among the same people. If he lost an appeal and it happened, I don't know, next year, and he was suspended, he's not cleared to fight. And he would not be fighting this weekend. But he's cleared to fight, and he is fighting.
I was going to move on to the comments. So first of all, Frank Warren, for example, made some comments. If I put yourself in his shoes for a moment, and if it was a Frank Warren fighter that was in this situation, do you believe you would act the same way he's acting because you're a promotional rival? Do you think that's
Whether I would say I would do what I'm doing, I don't know. I would not say he can't fight because he's cleared to fight. But of course, look, I mean, it's like, is Daniel Dubois a low blow or not? Would I react differently to what? Look, do you honestly think that if one of Frank Warren's biggest fighters was cleared to fight, that he would not be fighting? I mean, these promoters make you laugh. Look at so Chris Eubank has had approaches in the last couple of days from representatives of Boxer and ultimately representatives of Sky, because they're the promotional provider, to do the Conor Benn fight in December, and elicit approaches to Conor Benn through his network to try and do the fight. In an interview, he will probably say, I shouldn't have actually told you that because you should have just interviewed him. It's a disgrace. Conor Benn shouldn't be fighting. He must do this first. You're trying to make the fight. So you can't.
Are you referring to Ben Shalom?
I'm referring to representatives of Boxer and ultimately representatives of Sky. And Chris Eubank is under contract with Wasserman. He's not under contract with Sky. He's a free agent. And following this fight on Saturday, we'll be doing everything we can to make the biggest fight in British boxing with Callis Howland, his promoter. And if Chris Eubank wants to fight, we're ready to make the fight. But you've got other promoters that are saying one thing and trying to make a Conor Benn fight.
Will that have legal ramifications for the likes of Boxer?
That's already been dealt with. But, boxing's the Wild West, and some people are, deal differently to others. But you can't sit there and say, oh, he shouldn't be fighting, yet you're trying to make Eubank Benn. I mean, it's hypocrisy. But ultimately, if this was one of Frank Warren's fighters, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be saying he shouldn't be fighting. If you're cleared to fight, you're allowed to fight. Whether you think that's right or wrong, that's another opinion. Of course he's going to say it's wrong. But listen, he would be throwing up in his Voulevants if we made Eubank Benn. And that's probably why he's saying that.
I'll refer you to Adam Catterall's tweet. I know you've seen it, but for the viewers who maybe haven't, he wrote, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Horrific look for Matchroom, horrific look for DAZN, horrific look for boxing. What's your reaction to that? Because it seems as if...
I mean, part of it is some sense from Adam Smith. You can. Adam Catterall, sorry, Adam Smith. Adam Catterall, you can. Because, yes, we can. Because he's cleared to fight. But my answer to Adam Catterall is, what do you want him to do? Sit out for another 6 months while he's already been cleared. So again, it's like Adam's stuck on this, this sort of channel, this line of his opinion, and he won't deviate because, I don't know, it's been, it's obviously a big profile for him as well, but it's like, Adam, my answer to you is, what do you think Conor should do? Wait for an appeal that might not happen? Wait for an appeal that doesn't even have a date? He's gone through the process that you asked him to go through. And he won. He's been cleared to fight. Now, you don't have to like it if he fights. But you also can't tell him, sorry, mate, I know you're cleared to fight, but Adam Catterall says you shouldn't fight because it's a bad look. fuck off, Adam Catel. That's what I'd be saying if I was Conor Benn. I've won my case, I'm going back to work. You know, if Adam Catel was in a situation where, I don't know, he ever found himself in a case to continue his career and won that case, and they said to him, congratulations, you've won that case, you can now go back to work. And he went, no, I'm not going to go back to work because there might be an appeal in 6 months or a year, and I think it's only right that I sit here and wait. Of course, Adam, of course.
Let's move on to how Conor Benn looks mentally and physically. How do you think he fares in this fight on Saturday night? The opponent looks dangerous. He's got high knockout rate.
I don't like the opponent because he's Mexican, for one. And like anyone now, imagine like the support for Rodolfo Orozco, or you imagine like if he beats Conor Benn, he's going to fight like, I mean, I don't know. But so it's squeaky bum time for really what is 100% risk and zero reward. This fight is a fight that Tony Sims wants to take because he thinks emotionally and mentally Conor Benn must fight before he fights Brook or Taylor or Eubank or whoever it's going to be. And I think he's right. But also that comes with a danger. Don't forget, this guy mentally has been through the floor these last 12 months. So I'm excited for him. I'm nervous for him. And as I've said before, and I'll continue to take the flak, I believe he's 100% innocent, and I'm absolutely over the moon to see this young man go back to work on Saturday.
Does this lead him into this Eubank huge showdown? Will it happen in the UK?
It's up to Eubank. It's up to Eubank. You know, people trying to get in people's ears. It's a very simple situation. We win on Saturday. We speak to Catel. We make the offer. The biggest fight for Chris Eubank Jr. by a country mile, and not one that's a pretend one. Or I might be able to speak to someone who knows someone who knows someone. It's just make the fight, make your money, give everyone the biggest fight in British boxing. That's what we've got to do. And we can do it ever so quickly. And let's get Saturday out of the way first.
Wembley or Cardiff?
Wembley or Cardiff or international. But after this week, we'll be speaking to the British Boxing Board of Control and probably putting a permission to box for that date and try and make it in the UK. That's where I want to do the fight.
Let me ask you another question. It's kind of off the back of this. A lot of people on Twitter, which is a bit of a cesspit, refer to these silent bans. So they talk about Craig Richards, they talk about Felix Kaish. Can you open up some sort of idea as to where these comments come from, and obviously if they're true or not?
As usual, complete Twitter bollocks. Like, there is no such thing as a silent ban. When you are found guilty by UK, you've just seen it with Tete, with Amir Khan, with Sokolowski. There's a release that goes out to confirm that ban. I have never had a fighter that has been found guilty by UKAD. I've never experienced having a fighter that has a silent ban. Craig Richards fractured his hand. And just because someone puts out on Twitter that Craig Richards is serving us, what sort of world do we live in where now all of a sudden he has to respond to allegations that just some random fighter is on a silent ban? Felix Kaish. Do you think Felix Kaish would train for 12 weeks and do hundreds of rounds of sparring and make weight and pull out go to press conferences and go to public workouts and pretend that he's going to fight even though he's on a silent ban? Fucking clowns. So no, and the answer is, if someone was found guilty by UKAD, that is released by UKAD. And by the way, if it's not, I would insist it is. But I've never had a fighter that's been found guilty by UKAD, and I've never had a fighter or even heard of a silent ban. So no, I'm sorry, Twitter.
What is the Felix Kaish situation with Matchroom?
He trained one fight, he was sick he trained the whole 12 weeks. He was sick on the day of the fight. That was against Vaughan Williams. And the other fight in the European title, he trained, and unfortunately, the week before the fight, he decided that he could no longer continue the fight. That's one question for him. You know, I know he's had his own problems as well, but he's not with Tony Sims anymore. I believe he's training with Mark Tibbs, and we'll see what happens for him. Craig Richards is looking for a fight. He's pestering me for a fight. He's definitely not on a silent ban. Ask his hand about that. But anyway, so yeah.
Sandy Ryan aims to become the fastest women's lineal champion. On Saturday night, she faces someone who was very critical of you in Matchroom. Is it tough for you to be around Jessica McCaskill this week in any way?
I don't take anything personal. You know, some people say it's a very emotional sport. Sometimes people say things. What Jessica said was wild, and I spoke to her, and I spoke to Rick Ramos, and they issued an immediate apology and said I was talking absolute rubbish, I'm sorry. Listen, we had a little bit of a dispute with Jessica McCaskill where we had an agreement with her. They decided to not paper that agreement, whatever way you want to look at it. We lost a purse bid. The person who won the purse bid didn't do the fight. We ended up doing Habazin against against Terry Harper, and they weren't happy about that. But ultimately, we resolved it, and she's fighting in a massive fight this Saturday. I feel like we've done an unbelievable job for Jessica McCaskill and for Rick Ramos, and she's been brilliant. You know, she boxed Katie Taylor years ago. We boxed her in her hometown for a world title. She unified in America as well. She had an undisputed fight against Cecilia Brackhouse. We did the rematch for that fight as well. She fought a massive fight with Chantel Cameron in Abu Dhabi, and now she's fighting a unified world championship fight in America. Like, I feel like we've done a great job for Jessica. She's done amazing, and this is a brilliant fight. Like, Jessica McCaskill is a real handful, and Sandy Ryan is a tremendous fighter. This is one of the top female fights in the sport, and I think it'll be a war on what will be an unbelievable card on Saturday night in Orlando.
Lastly, because we've got a full week of this, Malik Scott made some comments saying that about this AJ fighting him. The comments he made didn't really make sense. What did you make of them?
Well, I've only just heard him off Parsons, and he said, we feel like Eddie Hearn has let us down. I mean, fuck me. I don't know how I've ended up getting the blame out of this one. I've not even been involved. All I've done is had conversations with Skills Challenge in Saudi Arabia. I've never spoken to Deontay Wilder about a deal, a date, an offer, nothing. And now I'm getting the blame. So we were both let down by a promise that never evolved. Now, will that evolve and will that actually happen? I would like to think so. And those conversations are ongoing. But right now, we are looking at the potential of Anthony Joshua fighting in December, because if he's not fighting Deontay Wilder in January, he wants to get out.
Who could that be against?
It could be anybody in the top 10 in the world, top 15 in the world, no further.
Who would you like if a gun to your head right now? You had to pick.
We go through this situation and we end up calling out names, and next thing it's like breaking news. He's looking at him. Anybody in the top 10 of the world rankings can be an option for December. We want to make the Deontay Wilder fight next, but those conversations now are gathering speed again. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But I can confirm I've not let Deontay Wilder down. And if I understand he must be frustrated. He hasn't boxed for, well over a year, and that was like a minute. If he wants to fight, I'm happy to talk to him about another fight and then try and work the AJ. We can make this AJ fight in Wilder in Vegas, Wembley, anywhere. Of course, we know financially the reward is greater out there, but we want to make that fight, so we'll see.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,